As a psychologist, what would you say the best way to deal with social disapproval? Once a person goes, let's say, plant-based and makes
Yes,
a great decision for themselves, they're going to
right.
get a lot of pressure from their, family and peers. What is the best way to deal with that?
Best way to deal with it is to actually not try to make a big deal out of this. And what the problem is the following. Let me give you a backdrop of why it's such a mess, and the mistakes that you're being goaded into by your nature. The your nature is the following: that we lived in small group hunter gatherers, and it was basically the same 30 people that you lived with your whole life. And those people, it was essentially your collective brains and abilities against all the hostile forces of nature. And so as a result, we shared information and we were very vocal about it. So if you found where there was a crocodile at the certain bend of the river, you made sure you told everybody. And so in doing so, you every little insight, every little thing that you figured out how to use flint to make a fire, whatever it was, it was important to share. And within the process of that, you established your and continue to establish your value in the village. So your own status was somewhat dependent upon you being a conduit of getting and sharing information. And so when people get this information about how useful it is to be a plant-dominated or plant-based diet, they want to share it. It's completely natural for them to do so. And if you figured out how to use flint to make a fire, when you showed people, nine people out of the village out of 10 would be very excited. One person would be annoyed that you got there first and got the credit. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
The natural annoyance about elevated status cost them some status is a problem. But in general, the village would have been excited. This is different because we are saying, here's a new thing that's really useful, and you're doing it wrong. Okay, so it's very much we're elevating our status and lowering their status. And so as a result, it's a very tough message for people. They don't think that they're going to do it anyway because they can sniff the self-discipline that's involved, and they're not really interested in that. So there's a fight from the get-go that was never there when you showed people how to make fire. And so what happens is that when people argue back with us, we tend to get more vehement. Instead of sharing information, we got to defend it because they're attacking. So now it winds up in an acrimonious situation. So what I tell people to do really is to not act like we've discovered anything big. My attitude is that if people notice what you're doing, we just simply say we're trying this thing out, we're running an experiment, we're seeing how something goes. And when they inevitably say, yeah, well, where do you get your protein from? We say, I don't know. I'm not really sure. And that sends a signal that we're not trying to be that we're the sage and they're the idiot. It sends a signal that we're a bumbling Mr. Magoo that is truly just experimenting with something that looks like a fad and will probably burn out on it in 90 days so that they don't have to worry about their status. Okay?
Gotcha. Yeah.
And this is how we finesse that problem. And if they push us in their holier than thou attitude about, well, that's gonna be bad. You can't do that. You say, well, I checked with my doctor, and my doctor says it seems to make some sense and it looks like it's going to be okay. And he says that they're going to just check my protein like once a year. Okay, and so we kick the can down the road so that people really have no argument against that.
Gotcha.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Take it real smooth.
Yeah, it almost feels like they're being threatened, and the best way to go about this is just to lead by example.
Yes. Just
Gotcha.
lead by example. Don't threaten. They cross-examine us. We just say, hey, we're just trying it out. Who knows? Seems like it's working for me.
Right.
And I feel better. Who knows? That's how we do it. We don't start claiming greater knowledge. If they are actually, so most of the pushback we get from people is their anxiety that we are raising our status in the village above them. And so if we take care of that, that ends their interest.
Ah,
Now, there are going to be some people that are actually legitimately curious, okay? The legitimately curious people that continue to ask, we send them to a book. So, pick your favorite book. If
right,
they're really smart, send them to the China Study.
right.
If they have a real high IQ, let them go chew on Colin Campbell. If they're more middle of the road, we send them to. If they're not quite as smart, you send them to John McDougall book.
Yeah,
If they're not quite as smart as that, you send them to Rip Esselstyn.
right.
You send them to Engine 2. It's more user friendly still. The If they're very esoteric, you send them to the Pleasure Trap.
That's yeah,
but,
that's good.
but that's kind of what I would do. Let the books do your talking, and actually, I suggest to people that when they do the books do the talking, tell people, well, if they say, well, I read this book, then just say, well, I didn't really read the whole thing. And the reason why I say that is that now you signal to them that they can catch you and pass you.
Ah,
And
gotcha.
that is now that's more enticing to them than the idea that they're always going to be trailing along behind you, that you got there first.
Ah, I see.
So you say, yeah, I'm just reading this book, and actually I put the thing down halfway through, it just seemed like a good idea. I haven't read the whole thing.
Ah,
And I just started trying it, and it seems to be working for me. If we use that tactic, then we really dial down the cost for them of looking into it.